Just trying to see how long she was going to hold her thumb on the button. Judges 7. First of all, we're going to be talking about Gideon's Army. As we all know, history repeats itself. The army that Gideon had started out as a great number, but because of certain attitudes, I should say, that Yah was seeing in the people, he had to reduce that number down to a few. Going through and reading Judges 7, Holy Spirit gave me this message probably, it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I went through and started looking up some of these Hebrew words and checking some things out. Just as it was during the days of Gideon, it also will be in the days of the end. He's going to pull up another army of just a few people. And when I say a few people, I'm talking a handful. There's not going to be that many. And the reason being is because he's going to make his name great again in the earth. And he does that by very few people, not by a great number. Talking to a couple people and interacting with a couple people the last few days. One guy made the comment to me about following, if the majority of scholars and the majority of Christians follow the names and follow a specific doctrine, then he's going to follow that because the majority is more of a testimony. Well, at the same time, Satan does the exact same thing. All right? You can look back during the days of the Hebrews when Yahweh had called them out of Egypt. All the rest of the world was following Satan. They were not following Yahweh. Okay? And he called specifically the Hebrews because they were the fewest of all people. And that's exactly what he said. And he's going to do the exact same thing in the end. The true Christians are the fewest of all people. Okay? And that's exactly who he's going to use to perform his signs and his wonders. But at the same time, you're going to have, again, where Yahweh is, there's Satan also. We can go back in Job 1 and read it. But where his people are, you're going to have Satan's people doing the exact same thing to deceive. Okay? Verse 1. Jerubbaal, who is Gideon, and all the people that were with him rose up early and pitched beside the well of Harod, so that the host of the Midianites were on the north side of them, by the hill of Moreh in the valley. And Yahweh said to Gideon, these people that are with thee are too many for me to give the Midianites into their hands, lest Israel vaunt themselves against me, saying, mine own hand hath saved me. And the key word there is, mine own hand hath saved me. That's the whole reason why he will only use a few, is because he does not want his people rejoicing that they did it by their own hands. Okay? And if you go back and read through the Old Testament, that was the fault he found with Israel, because they kept turning around and saying, well, we did this, not how you did it. Okay? Now therefore, go to, proclaim in the ears of the people, saying, whosoever is fearful and afraid, let him return and depart early from Mount Gilead. And there returned to the people 20 and 2,000, and there remained 10,000. And Yahweh said to Gideon, the people are yet too many, bring them down into the water, and I will try them for thee there. And the word try simply means to afflict them. Okay? And he's going to afflict them for a reason, to see if they've got what it takes. And it shall be that of whom I say unto thee, this shall go with thee, the same shall go with thee. And of whomsoever I say unto thee, this shall not go with thee, the same shall not go. So he brought down the people into the water, and Yahweh said unto Gideon, every one that lappeth of the water with his tongue, as a dog lappeth, him shalt thou set by himself. Likewise every one that bowed down upon his knees to drink. And the number of them that lapped, putting their hand to their mouth, were 300 men, but the rest of them, the people bowed down upon their knees to drink water. In other words, only the 300 that put their hand to their mouth and drank were the ones that he took. It wasn't the ones that bowed down upon their knees. And the principle he showed me with that is it's the 300 men that labored with their own two hands are the ones that he handpicked.
I'll be back.
Huh?
I'll be back.
Let me pause. Wait.
No, I gotta change what.
Oh, all right. But anyway, it was the 300 that he took that labored with their own two hands for the water, and that's the principle. They were the ones that were searching for the water, but they did not bow down under the affliction. All right, which is what the word trial means. They didn't bow down under the affliction, desiring water. Okay. And Hiah said to Gideon, by the 300 men that lapped will I save you, and deliver the Midianites into thine hand, and let all the other people go, every man into his place. So the people took victuals in their hand, and their trumpets, and he sent all the rest of Israel, every man unto his tent, and retained those 300 men, and the host of Midian was beneath him in the valley. And it came to pass the same night that Hiah said unto him, arise, get thee down into the host, for I have delivered it into thine hand. But if thou fear to go down, go thou with Phurah thy servant down to the host. Thou shalt hear what they say, and afterward shall thine hands be strengthened to go down into the host. Then went he down with Phurah his servant unto the outside of the armed men that were in the host. And I want you to pay attention to this, because Hiah had told him, go down and spy them out. And you're going to hear something when you're down there. Okay? And the Midianites and the Amalekites and all the children of the east lay along in the valley like grasshoppers for multitude. Their camels were without number as the sand by the seaside for multitude. And when Gideon was come, behold, there was a man that told a dream unto his fellow, and said, behold, I dreamed a dream, and lo, a cake of barley bread tumbled into the host of Midian, and came unto a tent, and smote it that it fell, and overturned it that the tent lay along. And his fellow answered and said, this is nothing else save the word of Gideon the son of Joash, a man of Israel. Into his hand hath Hiah delivered Midian and all the host. Now mind you, this was a false prophet that was telling this guy who had this dream. He said, look, this is none other. You just had a vision of Gideon. Okay? So even they are having prophecies. And this is what Hiah was showing me. Even Satan's ministers can have prophecy. Even Hiah's enemies can prophesy. All right? But watch. Where was I at? Thank you. And it was so, when Gideon heard the telling of the dream and the interpretation thereof, that he worshipped, and he returned into the host of Israel, and said, arise, Hiah hath delivered in your hand the host of Midian. And he divided the 300 men into 3 companies. Okay? 100 on each company. Now watch. He put a trumpet in every man's hand, with empty pitchers and lamps within the pitchers. And he said unto them, look on me, and do likewise. Behold, when I come to the outside of the camp, it shall be that as I do, so shall you do. In other words, you follow in my footsteps. Okay? When I blow with the trumpet, and I and all that are with me, then blow you the trumpets also on every side of all the camp, and say, of Hiah and of Gideon. Did you see that? Is that italicized? So he didn't shout for the sword of the Lord. Okay? He just said of Hiah and of Gideon. Now watch. So Gideon, the 100 men that were with him, came in unto the outside of the camp in the beginning of the middle watch, and they had but newly set the watch, and they blew the trumpets and brake the pitchers that were in their hands. And the 3 companies blew the trumpets and brake the pitchers, and held the lamps in their left hands, and the trumpets in their right hands to blow withal. And they cried the sword of Hiah and of Gideon. And they stood every man in his place round about the camp, and all the host ran and cried and fled. Okay? The 300 men blew the trumpets, and Haniah set every man's sword against his fellow, even throughout all the host. And the host fled to Bethshittah in Zerath, and to the border of Ibn Maholah unto Tabath. But I want you to notice this, because not once did Gideon's army ever lift a hand. Not once did they ever lift a sword. The only things they had in their hand was what? They had the trumpet, or the horn, and a lamp. That's all they had. No swords, no weapons, no nothing. So shall it be in the end. Okay? All we have to do is hold up the word. That's it. But watch this. As I was going through, I started really checking on some of these things. And a couple things actually stood out to me. Revelation 16. And like I said before, he's only going to use a very few men to ever do his work. For the purpose that we cannot say, oh, well, we did it. We came, just a handful of us came up against an army of 50,000 and we won. It was because we had knowledge or intelligence. That's not it at all. Already there. Did I say Revelation 16? Mm-hmm. All right. Verse 12. And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, out of the mouth of the false prophet. Pay attention to that, because there's 3 unclean spirits that are coming out of the mouths of the false prophets. Okay? They are the spirits of devils, working miracles. So as we're performing the miracles, Satan's got his crew doing the exact same thing, trying to deceive and distract the people away from his true people. Okay? Which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of that great day of Yahweh Almighty. Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame. Ephesians 6, that is the garments. The breastplate of righteousness, the sword of the Spirit, the helmet of salvation, so on and so forth. Okay? That's the garments we're putting on.
What do you do with the remote?
I didn't do anything with it. It should be on the bed. It should be on the bed. Let me read that again. Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame. Well, if you also look up the word in 2 Corinthians 5, Paul's talking about walking naked, and it's meaning referring to the physical body laid down, dead. Our desire is not to be unclothed, but clothed upon with our new bodies. Okay? In other words, when he appears, if we have not gotten to the point of change or conversion, we're going to be found naked in his sight. All right? But watch this. And he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon. I want to show you what the word Armageddon means. The Greek word is har Megiddo, and it literally means the mountains of Megiddo, which is the valley just outside the east gate of Jerusalem. But Megiddo also has several different names. We're going to Jeremiah 7. We did Revelation 16. Anyway, Megiddo goes under several different names. Tophet, Ben Hinnom, Valley of Slaughter, and the valley of Cherutz, which is also the valley of indecision. Charutts, Cherutz. All right. And if you remember going back to the book of Exodus, when Moses appeared before Pharaoh, as Moses was told to perform signs and wonders, so were the magicians under Pharaoh. Armageddon is going to be the exact same way. What it's going to be is what's the word? It's going to be kind of like a playoff. You're going to have Satan's people who are going to perform their signs and wonders, and then you're going to have Hoya's people performing their signs and wonders in the same valley.
Not like a contest.
Kind of. But what it's going to do is it's going to show Hoya's power, and our signs and performers are going to end up destroying theirs. You got to go back to what Paul said. This is a race. We're running just like it's a race. Okay? Now watch. Jeremiah 7. The only difference in Armageddon is we're not going to shake hands afterwards with the enemy, because they're going to end up getting destroyed. And as I was explaining this to another person on Facebook, Hoya told Ezekiel and Jeremiah and Isaiah that Israel would never ever, after their rebellion, which the sacrifice of Christ was the final draft of the divorce papers, okay? It would never be inhabited again. After 70 AD, that would have been it. It would have been wiped out. Okay?
What?
Huh?
What?
Israel. It would never be inhabited again. But America, playing God, what did they do? They set it up and made it a nation under America. Is everybody following that? And yet all the churches are telling the people, pray for Israel, pray for this, pray for that. Israel's no more. Who are we as a people to set up ourselves as a God to give Israel back their land? That's not under our authority. Okay? Think about this a minute, because the people that are there are not Israelites. They're the Philistines that David warred with. They always have been. That's what a Palestinian is. It's a Philistine. We just changed the names. All right? But I want you to see this, because this is going... If you're not aware of how the devil's playing, you're not going to be able to counteract his moves. Because that's all he can do is alter what Hoya's already done. Keep in mind, he cannot create. Okay? The only thing he can do is alter, or change, or pervert. So what he's going to do is he's going to try to take a specific type of people who at one point were Christians. When I say were, because they're not anymore, they were Christians, and fed them a bunch of lies and twisted their doctrine so that they become his. That's all he did. Okay? Now watch. Cut off thine hair, verse 29. Cut off thine hair, O Jerusalem, cast it away. Take up a lamentation on high places, for Hoya hath rejected and forsaken the generation of his wrath. Right there, he just said he's rejected them and he's forsaken them. That means he'll never go back to them. Okay? The children of Judah have done evil in my sight, saith Hallelujah. They have set their abominations in the house which is called by my name to pollute it. They have built the high places of Tophet. Now watch this, because this explains Armageddon. Okay? They have built the high places of Tophet, which is in the valley of the son of Hinnom or Ben Hinnom, to burn their sons and their daughters in the fire, which I commanded them not, neither came it into my heart. Another word, or another way of saying that, or I should say another way of describing that, is falsely putting them through baptism of fire. Okay? Teaching them baptism of fire when they have not taught or learned the other doctrines. In the book of Acts, no, I take that back. I believe it's in the book of Corinthians. Paul makes a statement. He said, there are people who are preaching another gospel that is not yet another gospel, but they're here to deceive you. Okay? Paul and Christ both taught the law and the prophets. They didn't teach anything different. They didn't teach anything different than Moses taught. It's the cats. We put them outside and they're walking back in. But anyway, Paul and the apostles in Christ never taught anything different than the law. Satan had come along and perverted a oral doctrine that was fed to the Sadducees and the Pharisees, which sent them off in a different direction. That's why Christ said, if they preach to you out of the law, the things of the law, observe what they're saying, do what they're saying, but don't do what they're doing. Okay? Now watch this.
So they are teaching that right?
Some things. You've got to be cautious of what they're teaching, because they are false doctrines. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith Hallelujah, that it shall no more be called Tophet, nor the valley of Ben Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter. They shall bury in Tophet till there be no place. In other words, they're going to keep burying bodies until there's no place to bury. Okay? The carcasses of this people shall be meat for the fowls of the heaven, for the beasts of the earth, and none shall fray them away. Then will I cause to cease from the cities of Judah, from the streets of Jerusalem, the voice of mirth, the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom. That means Christ will no longer go back. And where did he say he was cutting them off? Judah. Okay, in other words, the Jews of the flesh, those that profess to be Jews, that are not Jews. Alright, you've got 12 tribes of the house of Israel that were called Israelites, that somehow, and this is what people need to understand, in the New Testament they're all called Jews. Anybody notice that? They're not all Jews. Only those of the tribe of Judah are Jews. Okay? Israelites, which are the offspring of Israel, Jacob, but Israel, the offspring of Israel, they are called Israelites. They're not called Jews. And an Israelite simply, you can even write this down, an Israelite is none other than someone who's been circumcised. And it's not referring to the flesh. It's been somebody who has gone through a name change. And keep this in mind, when we were born in the flesh, we carried another name on our foreheads, another name in our right hand, and it was a mark and symbol of a beast. If you don't believe me, go back to Job 40 and 41 and read it. It was a sign of Behemoth. Okay? Now, when you are circumcised, Hoya puts his name in your forehead. And the seal is in your right hand. Like I said, Hoya's got his way, Satan's got his, and it's a counterfeit. It's an exact copy or replica. It's just name changes. Is everybody following? The only thing that's changed from the worship of Hoya is the name. Satan came along and changed his name to Baal instead of keeping it as it was. And then you had man come along who adopted principles that were in other nations and brought them in to the churches. Just like the sign of the cross and the sign of the, what do you call them? Steeple. Steeple's nothing but the phallic symbol from Egypt. Guess where the cross comes from? Huh? Rome. Guess where we got the English translation of the word cross? From Rome. It never existed anywhere else. Even in Aramaic, it says he was hung on a tree. He wasn't hung on a cross or a pole. Where'd the symbol come from? It's called the summer solstice. The summer solstice every year at the peak of the sunrise, there's a cross symbol in the sky. That's where we got the idea of the cross. Constantine had a dream and had a vision of it, and so that was where he came up with the idea for the cross. Okay? Now watch this. Where did I stop? Oh. Then will I cause to cease from cities of Judah and from the streets of Jerusalem the voice of mirth, the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom, and the voice of the bride. So in other words, the bride will never ever step foot in Jerusalem. Ever again. And you know what that means. It means he will not go to Jerusalem to select his bride. If you want to find, or I should say, if you want to be a part of his bride, what did Christ say at the last days? He said, what's going to happen? You're going to hear wars, rumors of wars, and then what? He didn't say flee into Jerusalem or flee into Judah where the temples were. He said go to the mountains. Get out of Judah. Get out of Jerusalem. Not go into her. Get out of it. Why? Because he's not going to go back there. Okay? The land shall be desolate. It shall be desolate. And the word desolate simply means vacant. There's not going to be another soul living there. That is part of the bridegroom. Or the bride. And the word Tophet simply means a smiting. In other words, he's not going to stop until it's been smitten. Jerusalem. Okay? Jeremiah 19. Verse 1. Thus saith Hoya, go and get a potter's earthen bottle, take the ancients of the people and of the ancients of the priests, go forth in the valley of Ben-Hinnom, or son of Hinnom, which is by the entry of the east gate. Where is it? It's outside the east gate. Okay? Now, that being said, where's the church? It's inside the east gate. What was outside the east gate? The gates of hell. Alright, if you go back and read the book of Ezekiel, which I would advise you to do, go back and study through it and actually listen to some of the things that Ezekiel says, because Christ's entry or re-entry is going to be through the east gate. In other words, he is going to literally have to cross over the valley of the son of Hinnom before he ever gets to the east gate. Okay? By that, where are the dead? Hold your hand there. Go to Ezekiel. Over there. 37. Verse 1. The hand of Haya was upon me, carried me out in the spirit of Haya, set me down in the midst of the valley which is full of bones. Now, another word for the word, or I should say another name for the valley of the son of Hinnom and Tophet. You ready for this? Because this is where your English scholars twisted it. You see the word was. You notice it's not there.
Yeah.
Remove the word was, and what is it called?
Full bones.
The valley of full of bones. This is exactly what Ezekiel is seeing and being shown. It's the valley of Tophet, or the valley full of bones, that he's seeing this happen take place. And who is being called?
Ezekiel.
No, wait a minute. Watch. It caused me to pass by them round about, and behold, there were very many in the open valley, and lo, they were very dry. And he said unto me, who?
Son.
Joshua. When he comes to the east gate. Okay? So not only is there going to be a valley of slaughter, again, we're not going to have to lift a hand.
Mm-hmm.
Is everybody following that? We're not going to be the ones slaughtering. It's going to be those that are against us that are going to slaughter themselves. Okay?
Because we be speaking the word.
Well, we have been speaking the word. But the point is, finish that later. Come on. Hold on. Anyway. But those in the Valley of Decision, which is what we're talking about, those in the Valley of Decision, when they're killed, no place to be buried, watch who he calls them, what he calls them, and watch what happens, okay? Can these bones live? And I answered, O Haya, thou knowest. Again he said unto me, prophesy unto these bones, and say unto them, O you dry bones, hear, what?
Word.
Hear the word of Haya.
Yes.
Hear the word. So as we are standing, and again, what did Gideon's army have surrounding the valley of Megiddo? The trumpet and the light. Okay? That's all we've got is the word and our mouths, the trumpets.
Amen.
Remember, what did Gideon shout, or have the people shout on top of the mountain, or on top of the valley?
The sword
Of Haya and of Gideon. But they shouted it. Okay, hold your hand there. I'm going to open up another book. First Thessalonians, sorry, chapter 4. And these verses I'm showing you they're all tied into one another. First Thessalonians is nothing but Paul quoting Ezekiel 37 and Jeremiah and all these prophecies that are tying in with the valley of Tophet. Okay?
Go lay down.
Go lay down.
Go lay down.
Shut that light off. She might go to sleep. Well, she might go to sleep.
First Thessalonians what?
First Thessalonians 4.
For what?
13. I haven't got there yet, but thank you.
Well, I gotta be in.
Anyway, starting at verse 13, I would not have you to be what? Okay. So this is a warning. Is everybody following that? In other words, if you're going to understand what Paul's saying, you got to get rid of the ignorance, because otherwise you're going to end up twisting the scripture verse into something that it's not. And what have the churches done? Twist it into something it's not. Okay? Be not ignorant, brethren, concerning them which, what? Okay, this rest of this chapter is talking about those that are asleep. Is everybody following? That's what he just said. Concerning them which are asleep. That means this is my conversation to you. Concerning them which are asleep. He's not changing by chapter or verse 17. Damn it. He's not changing by verse 17 into a different thought. It's all the same thought. Okay? Stop it. Concerning them which are asleep, that you sorrow not, even as others which have no hope. For if we believe that Yahshua died and rose again, even so them also which sleep in Yahshua will Hallyu bring with him. Who's going to come? The Hallyu, the one that appeared to Moses, the one that no man can look upon and live, supposedly. Okay, now watch this. For this we say unto you by the word of Hallyu, that we which are alive and remain. Did you see the word and? You know it's not there? We which are alive remaining is actually the definition or the actual word that should have been placed there. Alive remaining means we're not going anywhere. Hello? Unto the coming of the Master shall not prevent or precede them which are asleep. We're not going to do anything before those that are asleep. In other words, we're not going anywhere. We're not doing anything. We're not leaving until all the dead are raised. Is everybody following? Now watch. For Hallyu himself shall descend from heaven with what?
Shout.
With a shout. That's Gideon's army. Spank her. Did you see that?
Yes.
Okay. With the voice of the archangel, did you notice a comma after the shout? Who's shouting? We are. We're the trumpets. We're bearing the light. Is everybody following? With the voice of the archangel, with the trump of Hallyu, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. Now watch this. Then we which are alive remaining. Does that say we're going up anywhere?
No.
No. It says we which are alive remaining. It means we're remaining on the earth. Shall be promoted together with them in clouds. In other words, just as Moses went up the mountain and was baptized in a cloud, we're the same way. We're going to be baptized in clouds. Okay? This thing is about to make me mad. We which are alive remaining shall be promoted together with them in the clouds to meet Hallyu. Where? Again, that's a twisting of scripture. No. The word air simply means the top of a mount. We're going up to the mount just like Moses did. They're following.
Yeah.
So shall we ever be with Hallyu. It means he's going to inhabit us from that moment forward. Is everybody following? Now, go back to Ezekiel. Verse 4, Again he said unto me, Prophesy unto these bones, and say unto them, O you dry bones, hear the word of Yahweh. For thus saith Yahweh unto these bones, Behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and ye shall live. Oh, you son of a gun. Hang on.
You want a Bible?
No, this is easier. Thus saith Yahweh unto these bones, Behold, I will cause breath to enter in you, and you shall live. And I will lay sinews upon you, and will bring up flesh upon you. Now, is that speaking of people who are physically dead in a grave?
Oh,
It's speaking of both. Not only are they going to be covered with the new flesh, but we also are going to be covered with the new flesh.
amen.
Is everybody following? And watch. And cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and you shall live, and you shall know that I am Yahweh. So I prophesied as I was commanded. Did you see that?
Yeah.
He was prophesied as he was commanded. Still something the churches have never gotten. You can't prophesy if you want to. Only as you're commanded. Okay? And as I prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, a shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone. And when I beheld, lo, the sinews and the flesh came up upon them, and the skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them. Now, he just said he was going to put breath in them, didn't he? But yet there's still no breath in them. So all the flesh, the sinew, and everything else is coming back together. There's still no life in them. Everybody following? Now watch. Then said the enemy, Prophesy unto the wind, prophesy, son of man, and say to the wind. Did you see a difference? The first person being called to call upon the flesh, to call up the sinews, to call up the new body, is a capital S. Did anybody else see that?
Yeah. So it's us peons.
Okay, so Christ is doing the work. He's putting on the new body, but we are the ones that have to put the life in it. Is everybody following? We're the ones that's going to have to make it breathe. That's our part in doing the work. Our part in doing the labor. Working with our two hands. Alright? Watch this. Prophesy, son of man, and say to the wind, Thus saith Yahweh the Almighty, Come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe upon these slain that they may live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived, and stood up upon their feet, an exceeding great army. Then he said unto me, Son of man, notice the capital S. Now I want you to see the transition here, because it's Christ that does the forming of the body, the new body. We're putting the life back in it. But he's specifically talking to Christ, not to us. Is everybody seeing that? It's Christ in us. Okay? These bones are the whole house of Israel.
Where are you at?
Verse 11.
Of what?
Ezekiel 37:11. These bones are the whole house. Does anybody else smell that?
Yeah.
Cigarette smoke?
Yes.
Now watch. These bones are the whole house of Israel. So it's the whole house of Israel, that's going through the change. It's Israel that's, was anything on?
No.
Oh.
Well,
It's Israel that's getting the new body. Not physical Israel, but the Israel. I'm smelling it right here. Really
I
strong.
smell it over there, but I'm smelling it right here too.
We have
Do you
some
have
presences
a
for
thing
this.
going?
Nope.
Washer or dryer? Should be done by now.
Behold, they say, our bones are dried, our hope is lost, we are cut off for our parts. Let me read that back. Behold, they say, our bones are dried. There's no water, no moisture, no teaching. Our hope is lost. We are cut off for our parts. This is what Paul was talking about when he said the left hand can't say to the right hand, I have no need of you. The left toe can't say to the right toe, I've got no need of you. So on and so forth.
Go to sleep.
Get in bed.
Washer and the dryer both full.
Okay. Therefore prophesy and say unto them, Thus saith Yahweh the Almighty, Behold, O my people, I will open your graves, cause you to come up out of your graves, and bring you into the land of Israel. Is this physical Israel? No, it's spiritual Israel. You shall know that I am Yahweh when I have opened your graves, O my people, and brought you up out of your graves. Did you see that? Shall put my spirit in you. That's what the new body is. It's his spirit. Okay? You shall live, and I shall place you in your own land. He did not say I'm going to place you back in Israel. He said, I'm going to place you in your own land. Then shall you know that I, Yahweh, have spoken it and performed it. And performed it. Now watch. Jeremiah 19. Go forth, verse 2, unto the valley of the son of Hinnom, which is the entry of the east gate. Proclaim there the words which I shall tell thee, and say, Hear you the word of Yahweh, O you kings of Judah, and inhabitants of Jerusalem. Thus saith Yahweh, the Almighty of Israel.
Where'd you go?
Jeremiah 19.
What?
I'm in 3 now. Behold, I will bring evil upon this place, the which whosoever heareth his ears shall tingle. It doesn't say tickle. It says tingle. What's the difference?
Tickling is something you want to tinkling gets your attention.
Close.
Tingling is coming back to life.
No. No.
Well, when your arms go numb, they tingle when they.
No. Tickling, like she said, is something that you want to hear. Tingling is where your ears are on fire. Has anybody here ever had their ears burned? Nobody here has had their ears actually feel like they're on fire.
When they get frozen out and cold.
No. When Haya speaks, your ears literally tingle. It's like they're on fire. Alright, watch this. Because they have forsaken me, have estranged this place, in other words, made it a stranger, have burnt incense in it unto other deities, whom neither they nor their fathers have known. I want you to key in on that word gods. If we have been serving other gods, why would we call him God? because it's the same word.
Mhm.
Is everybody following? In other words, you're not calling him any different than you would call Satan.
Mhm.
You're putting him on the same level. All right, now watch. The actual word gods is devils.
Mhm.
In case anybody didn't catch that. And have burnt incense in it unto other devils, whom neither they nor their fathers have known, nor the kings of Judah, have filled this place with the blood of innocents. They have built also the high places of Baal. Let me read that in English. They have built also the high places of the Lord. What is a church? It's a high place of Baal. What do you think? What do you think the steeple is? Think about this a minute. What do you think the steeple is? Hold your hand there. I want to show you this. Go to Matthew, I believe, or Luke. Let's try Luke. I think it's Luke. Maybe it's Mark. Hang on. I'll go there first. Nope, it's Matthew 4. I think that's the dryer or washer. Alright, everybody there? Verse 4, But he answered and said, It is written, Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh. Then the devil taketh him up into the holy city, and setteth him on a pinnacle of the temple. What is a pinnacle?
Steeple.
It's a steeple. That is a high place of Baal. That's what they were built with, or built, I should say, for in early Egyptian times, which is where the Canaanites adopted the Baal worship. But also, go to Washington, D.C. Look at the obelisk that sits on the Potomac River. Same thing. It's a high place of Baal. Is everybody following that? Now watch this. Verse 5 in Jeremiah. They have built also the high place of Baal to burn their sons with fire for burnt offerings unto Baal. To burn. I'm going to read this again, real slow, so you guys can get
All
this.
right, where did you go back to?
Jeremiah 19,
Thank you.
verse 5. They have built also the high places of Baal to burn their sons with fire for burnt offerings unto Baal. To burn their sons with fire for burnt offerings unto the Lord. Every time you preach baptism of fire unto the Lord, that's exactly what you're doing. The Lord doesn't baptize with fire. He consumes with fire. Is everybody following? There's a difference. How many here have ever heard, well, you probably haven't. I've heard several ministers who have taught baptism of fire and have turned around and preached the exact same doctrine that they did before they were baptized in fire. They still preach rapture. Sorry, if you've been baptized in fire, you'd never preach rapture. You know why? Because rapture is a doctrine of self-will. Go back and read in Isaiah 14, 12 through 14. That was Lucifer's will that he ascended up into the heavens. Where do you think man got the idea? From Satan's offspring. Everybody following? Watch. Which I commanded not. I didn't give them a commandment to do it, nor spake it, neither came into my mind. In other words, it didn't come into my mind for them to baptize with fire unto Baal. He didn't say it didn't come into my mind to baptize with fire, just unto Baal. Okay? Therefore, behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that this place shall no more be called Tophet, nor the valley of the son of Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter. And I want you to see this because in the book of Jeremiah, Jeremiah prophesies of a name change of this one valley 4 different times. 4 different times is it prophesied of a different name change. Now, what happens when a person gets a name change? No. Huh?
Does it have to do with authority?
Not really. That's how many times his people have had to been circumcised. 4 different times. 4 different times they turned around and rebelled. So they're following that. When they should have gone through the dung heap, through Tophet, into the east gate to be taught, they got right to the valley of Tophet and turned around and transgressed again. And started offering sacrifices to Baal in the valley of Tophet. Is everybody following that? Watch. I will make void the counsel of Judah, verse 7, and Jerusalem in this place. In other words, no longer will their counsel be worth anything. Their advice will no longer be worth anything. I was talking to a guy on Facebook just the other day. He's making the comment that he has read read a lot of rabbinical studies on the law and such. Their counsel is void. Jeremiah said so. Better yet, Hallel said so. They're no longer worth anything because their concepts, their ideas of what the law stood for is in vain. They're the ones that are going forth looking for their own righteousness. Alright, now watch this. Where was I at? Thank you. I'll make... Huh? Okay. Alright. I'll make void the counsel of Judah and Jerusalem in this place. I will cause them to fall by the sword before their enemies, by the hands of them that seek their lives, and their carcasses will I give to be meat for the fowls of heaven and for the beasts of the earth. I will make the city desolate. There you go again. He's removing their habitation. And in hissing, every one that passeth thereby shall be astonished and hiss because of all the plagues thereof. I will cause them to eat the flesh of their sons and the flesh of their daughters. They shall eat every one the flesh of his friend in the siege and straightness wherewith their enemies, and they that seek their lives shall straighten them. Now, does anybody want a clue as to what he just said? About your son, you shall eat the flesh of your sons and your daughters. What did Christ say? Unless you eat my flesh and my blood, you have no life in you. In other words, they're going to be following their kids instead of their kids following them. Is everybody following that? You don't follow that? That means what the kids learn, they're going to have to go back and teach the parents because the parents didn't learn it. Instead, they're going to be desiring what their children are seeking after, rather than the children seeking after what the parents are seeking after. Train up a child in the way he should go. Well, what happens when you don't? The parent ends up following the doctrine of the children. All right, watch. They that seek their lives shall straighten them. In other words, those that are coming against them are going to end up being the ones that are going to put them back in the right path. She is. Their enemies are going to be the ones that are going to end up putting them back in their path, or back in the right path. That's what it means to straighten, to set them back in the right path. So, in other words, when you go astray, who's the one that's going to straighten you? Is it the enemies of you, or is it in your mind they're your enemies? Everybody following that? It's only your opinion that they're your enemy. It's like I was telling this one guy on Facebook. It's like, you don't realize I'm not against you. I hold no anger, no animosity to anybody. I don't get offended. It doesn't happen. If you want to sit here and treat me like crap, that's fine. I can treat you like crap right back, but it doesn't change the fact I've got nothing against you. You want to treat me like an enemy, that's only in your own sight. I'm not your enemy.
Well, when they're against Haya, they are the enemy.
But they put themselves on the battleground.
They think Haya is against them, and it's not.
No, they don't. They think he's on their side. And he's not.
They only see the flesh.
Right.
Mm.
Naturally, they're already set against him. But anyway, watch this. Jeremiah 32. And just like I was telling the guy on YouTube, it's like, you guys really don't understand the way the Scripture plays out. There's a spiritual level behind Scripture that man has hardly even looked at. It's just like the definition of the word parable. The definition of the word parable, or dark saying, means, like for an example, if I'm going to explain something to Ruth, and I know that there's no way she's going to understand it if I explain it to her in person. If I tell her exactly word for word, let me explain it this way. In order to explain New Jerusalem, where I've been, where I've stood, okay, I would have to explain it to you in parable, because unless you've seen it, you would never understand what I'm talking about. It's just, there's no way. The glory that's there's no way you can explain it. It's beyond words. Okay? But to explain it to you, I have to actually make or give you a parable in order for you to understand it. Because it's not something that can be expressed in the flesh or explained in the flesh. Just as Paul said when he was up in the third heaven, he heard words that were unlawful for any man to speak. Because it's just, you can't explain it in the flesh. It's a completely different atmosphere. It's a completely different language. And there's laws there that govern stuff that's not here. Okay? In other words, you are literally under a law with your mouth. If you illegal, this is what Lucifer fell from heaven for, because with the words of his mouth he said, "I will." That's illegal in that law. Is everybody following? That's illegal in that realm. You cannot speak that. You cannot speak anything of your own will in that realm. All right, now watch. Where was I going? Verse 31. Let me get there. For this city hath been to me as a provocation of mine anger and of my fury from the day that they built it, even unto this day, that I should remove it from before my face, because of all the evil the children of Israel and of the children of Judah, which they have done to provoke me to anger, they, their kings, their princes, their priests, their prophets, the men of Judah, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. There he just identified every Israelite in the flesh. All right. And that's speaking of the Israelites that are fleshly circumcised, not spiritually circumcised. There's a huge difference. Okay, now watch. This city hath been to me as a provocation of mine anger, of my fury, from the day that they built it. From the day that Israel was first instructed, they were already provoking him to anger. And do you know why? It's real simple. What was the principle of the tabernacle in the wilderness? That tabernacle was never supposed to go in the promised land. Did you know that? They were supposed to be the tabernacles in the promised land. The only reason why it was in the wilderness was a type and shadow of what they were supposed to become when they entered the promised land. That's all it was for. No, it was supposed to be temporal. But as soon as they went in, they started building it. He does not inhabit the buildings made with hands. That was the principle. And that's what he was trying to show them in the wilderness. That's why nobody could enter the tent or the tabernacle while he was there. And even today, it cracks me up when you listen to people talk about, oh, well, there's a page on Facebook specifically for Church of Christ members. And they claim right and left that, oh, well, the Church of Christ is Christ's body. He will not inhabit it. I don't care where you are, what you are, in what building you are. He will not step foot in this place as long as we are here. Did you know that? He won't. But Christ said, where two or three gather together in my name, there am I in the midst. What does that mean? You couldn't contain him in a building. It's not possible. He couldn't inhabit it.
How do we contain the house?
You have to be powerful. You have to have dunamis in order to contain him in you. Is everybody following? Literally, if he was to enter into a building, it would be consumed. That quick. All right, now watch this. They have turned unto me the back and not the face. So the minute you build him a building, what have you done? You've turned your back on him. Though I taught them, rising up early, teaching them, yet they have not hearkened to and receive instruction. Why did Christ not ever go into the tabernacles, taking his disciples with him and all the multitudes, and said, look, come into the temple with me and I'll teach you here at the temple? He didn't. You know what he did? He went into the temple to reprimand the Sadducees and the Pharisees, not to teach. He just used the word to go against them, to show them where they were in the wrong. All right, watch. They have set their abominations in the house, which is called by my name, to defile it. They built the high places of Baal. There you go again. They put a steeple on it, which are in the valley of the Son of Hinnom, to cause their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire. Where? Okay, so literally, when these guys are in the churches preaching baptism of fire, who are they preaching to? If they mention the names of Jesus and Lord, guess who they're baptizing to? Molech. Think about it. They're causing their sons and daughters to be passed through the fires of the Molech. That's what he said. I can show you in Scripture where he said they have changed my name for Baal's. They've altered it. And they did. Even the Tetragrammaton, which is the YHWH, which everybody's saying is Yahweh, that is not his name. It never was. It was adopted in Babylonian captivity. That is the name of Baal. Think about this a minute. Why would the Masons adopt the same name?
Yes, sure. They know.
And they did. All right, now watch this. Which I commanded them not, neither came it into my mind that they should do this abomination to cause Judah to sin. And now therefore, thus saith Yahweh, the Almighty of Israel, concerning this city, whereof you say it shall be delivered into the hand of the king of Babylon by the sword, by the famine, by the pestilence. Behold, I will gather them out of all countries, whither I have driven them in mine anger. In other words, he got angry and he scattered them. Okay? Where was that?
37.
Thank you. In my fury and in my great wrath, and I will bring them again unto this place, and will cause them to dwell safely. Now, wait a minute. Where is he speaking at? We just got done reading it. They're in Tophet. Huh? Okay, but that's where he's bringing them back to, is the valley of Tophet. Why? It says they'll dwell safely, right?
If they make the right decision.
Because he's going to pull them back there to decide. What are you looking at?
Was it 5? I thought it was a
Oh, there's a bunch of flies mating up there. Anyway. I will cause them to dwell safely, and they shall be my people, and I will be their Almighty. I will give them one heart. You know, naturally, in the flesh, before we've ever come to Christ, we're of two hearts. Did you know that? We're double-minded. We both think from our hearts and we think from our minds. That's mixing the knowledge of good and evil. So what did he say? I will bring them back to Tophet. For what reason? To give them one heart. And one way, that they may fear me forever for the good of them and of their children after them. I will make an everlasting covenant with them that I will not turn away from to do them good. But I will put my fear in their hearts, that they shall not depart from me. So after you've had one heart, after you've had one way, and what else? Number 3 is fear. After you've had one heart and been set back in one way, you will literally fear him. And you won't want to go another way. You won't want to go back to the number 2 heart, or the second heart, I should say. But 3, that's when he makes the covenant with you, to do you good. That's what he just said. Okay, now watch. Then he will not turn away from them. But I will put my fear in their hearts, that they will not depart from me. Yea, I will rejoice over them to do them good. And I will plant them in this land assuredly with my whole heart and with my whole soul. For thus saith Yahweh, like as I have brought all this great evil upon this people, so will I bring upon them all the good that I have promised them. Did everybody see that?
Yeah.
Did you know at one point we had all the great evil promised on us? Watch. The field shall be bought in this land, whereof you say it is a desolate without man or beast. It is given in the hand of the Chaldeans, which it was. That's who owns our properties now. Hands of the Chaldeans, the Babylonians. Men shall buy fields for money, and subscribe evidences, and seal them, and take witnesses in the land of Benjamin, and in the places of Jerusalem, and in the cities of Judah, and in the cities of the mountains, and in the cities of the valley, and in the cities of the south, for I will cause their captivity to return, saith Yahweh. In other words, you're no longer going to be captive to man, you're going to be captive to Yahweh. Alright, watch. Molech, if you got a pen and paper, which you do, Molech was a king of the Ammonites, or a deity, chief deity of the Ammonites. And what did he say? He said he would obliterate Ammon from out from under the whole earth, or out from under the whole heaven, rather. Did he not? Okay, now watch. Another name for Azazel was Moloch. Also called Baal. Also called Lucifer. Also called Abaddon. Either one you want to call him by. They're all the same. Alright, watch. Jeremiah 9. Now I'm specifically using Jeremiah for a reason. Because he did the most prophesying about Tophet. And what it was going to be like in the last days. Alright. Verse 23. Thus saith Yahweh, let not the wise glory in his wisdom. Let not the wise glory in his wisdom. Neither let the mighty glory in his might. Here's another word for the word mighty. Neither let the rich glory in his riches. You know how a rich man glories in his riches? They see something, they want to go buy it. That's what it is. That's how they glory in their riches. Oh, wow, I just bought me a new truck. I just bought me a new house or a new jet or a new car, whatever. Yeah, let not the rich glory in his riches. There you go again. So that's a double warning to the rich. Hello? That's him warning them twice. Do not glory in your riches.
Wise man is rich.
Well, it's the self-proclaimed wise. The scholars. Let him that glorieth glory in this, that he understandeth and knoweth me. That Yahweh, which exercise loving kindness, judgment, and righteousness in the earth, for in these I delight, saith Yahweh. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will punish them. Is that what it says? No, it doesn't. Punished all circumcised with the uncircumcised. Is that what that says? Huh? Watch. I'm going to show you. I will punish all circumcised with the uncircumcised. Egypt, Judah, Edom, children of Ammon, Moab, all in the utmost corners that dwell in the wilderness. Okay, who? Wait a minute. Did he just say he was going to punish the circumcised and uncircumcised?
With
Why?
Don't know, we're asking you.
It's just said it. Because they wanted to remain in the wilderness.
Are they crazy?
What do you think murmuring and complaining is? It's keeping you in the wilderness. Why did they keep going around the mountain? Murmuring and complaining. That's not speaking of the circumcision in the heart. It's speaking of the circumcision of the flesh. Because they're no different than the uncircumcised. Is everybody following that? Now watch. All these Gentiles are uncircumcised. Let me read that again, in case anybody caught that. I will punish all the circumcised with the uncircumcised, Egypt, Judah, Edom, children of Ammon, Moab, the uttermost corners of the earth. All that dwell in the wilderness. Why? Because they're all uncircumcised.
Seems to be.
Except his elect.
Israel uncircumcised in heart.
And it's funny because yesterday I told Mom, I looked up the word chosen. It is the same Greek word for the word elect. Eklektos. Many are called, few are chosen. Many are called, but few are elected. All right? And I was trying to explain to this one guy on the internet. Chosen is not by your choice. Election is not by your choice. And the only way I can explain that is the only way I know because I was chosen. And the only way I know that was because my conscience has followed me all the days of my life. I have never been able to do anything to go against it. Ever. I have wanted to go out and get drunk. I've wanted to go out and do other things. I'm not going to get into it. But I've wanted to go out, but my conscience would never let me. It never would. I could sit down with a 12-pack of beer. By the end of the 12th beer, I still am not drunk because my conscience won't let me do it. Just will not let me do it. That's why I said I could sit down and drink a case and never get drunk because my conscience won't let me. Why? I don't know. It just will not let me. I do know because I was elected. But that's the point. And that's why I was explaining to this guy. And he goes, oh, so you're some big thing? I said, no. That's just the only way I can explain it. Your conscience follows you all the days, and you can't do anything about it. You can't change it.
Try drinking 26 apricot stone sours and walking out cold stone
But it's even when you try to turn your back on him and walk away, he won't let you. You're elected and chosen for that purpose. He won't let you. Okay, now watch. All these nations are uncircumcised, and all the house of Israel uncircumcised. Where? Bingo. So there's a difference. There is a circumcision and an uncircumcision. One of the heart, one of the flesh. The flesh means nothing. And that's what Paul was trying to explain in Corinthians. He said, you know, what is the circumcision and the uncircumcision but the obedience of the commandments? That's the difference in what circumcises you. It has nothing to do with whether you're circumcised in the flesh or not. Which I just read a report the other day on the internet that women are now getting circumcised. How? I don't even know.
They have, and they've been brutalizing them in the foreign countries, Africa and Asia and all for years. So they have no desire. They cut the clitoris off, so they have no physical enjoyment whatsoever.
Well, that's just sick. But anyway, I didn't need to know that much detail, but whatever.
Well, we brought this up.
The word wilderness is midbar. And this is the actual definition. I'm not pulling this up or concocting it or anything else. It literally means one who refuses to change their speech. That's what circumcision pertains to. Go lay down. Go lay down. Circumcision pertains to your speech. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Okay, so if your heart has been circumcised, your speech will be reflecting it. And someone who is circumcised won't speak death anymore. Case in point, somebody showed up yesterday. That's all he did was spoke death the entire time they were here. I couldn't take it, could not stand it. It gets on your nerves. You can't deal with them. You can't put up with them. So I kept to myself most of the day. All right, now watch this. Exodus 16. And you got to keep in mind, what did Israel do in the wilderness? Well, I'll show you here in just a second. Verse 6. Moses and Aaron said unto all the children of Israel, at even, then you shall know that Yahweh hath brought you out from the land of Egypt. In the morning then you shall see the glory of Hiah, for that he heareth your murmurings against Hiah. What are we that you murmur against us? And Moses said, When Hiah should give you in the evening flesh to eat, in the morning bread to the full, for that Hiah heareth your murmurings which you murmur against him. And what are we? Your murmurings are not against us, but against Hiah. In other words, when you speak against the ministers, or your ministers, or whoever, you're not speaking against ministers. When you speak against his people, you're not speaking against his people. You're speaking against himself. What classifies, or I should say, what defines you as his person, as his people? What? Circumcision of the heart. That means you no longer murmur and complain. It means you no longer speak death. But it's also, you have a clear conscience. Your conscience will not let you do anything against his commandments or his law. Period. Alright? Now watch. Moses spake unto Aaron, saying to all the congregation of the children of Israel, saying to what? All the church of the children of Israel, come near before Hiah, for he hath heard your murmurings. And it came to pass, as Aaron spake unto the whole congregation of the children of Israel, that they looked toward the wilderness. Does it say they ran toward the wilderness? No, they only looked. Why did they refuse to go into the wilderness where he was?
Because they knew they had to straighten up.
Had to do with the tongue. They didn't want to correct their speech. They didn't want to stop murmuring and complaining. It's childish. Why do you think they're called the children of Israel? That's why they were called the children of Israel. They didn't want to change their attitude. They didn't want to grow up. Why? Think about this logically. Why does a child murmur and complain? Why do they sit there and cry and moan and whimper about everything? Or things they don't want to do? Because they want their own way. Why do we murmur and complain? Because we're not getting our own way. That's all it is. A circumcised man, he won't complain. He'll just do whatever he's commanded to do. All right, watch. They looked toward the wilderness, or the changing of their speech, and behold, the glory of Hiah appeared in the cloud. That's why they would not go in the wilderness, because they would have to change their speech. They would have to change the way they talk to him. Did I just strike a nerve? You know, 99% of us speak to him as we are children, instead of speaking to him like he's one of us, an adult. How many times have we gone to prayer and said, Lord, I would love to have this, I would like to have this, and I would like to have this. I really need this. No, you don't. Because he said he would supply your needs. You'd have it before you even asked for it. Is that not what the word says? If we're having to ask for it, we didn't really need it. Think about it. And he showed me this last night. I was sitting there praying for Brooke and Ray. What am I praying for? I know they're already healed. It's because I want to see them healed, not because they're already healed. But it's because I want to see the sign, the wonder. Is everybody following? The wicked and adulterous generation seeks after signs and wonders. I don't have to see the sign to know that they're healed. Everybody, what's this?
But you know what else, Ryan? Is because we're trying to prove God to those who don't believe.
No, we're not.
Because, wait a minute.
No, we're not.
Because I wanted them to manifest their healing Well, Marie was here yesterday.
No, we're not.
So that she wouldn't criticize us.
We're not trying to manifest for God.
No, I'm saying I want their healing manifested, so she knows that we're on the right track, and it shouldn't be. I know they were healed. So all that talk about taking them
Hoya,
to the hospital, and
not
all
God.
that. Sorry,
No.
did I say God?
Yes, correct your tongue.
Sorry.
Now watch. As they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of Hoya appeared in the cloud. And Hoya spake unto Moses, saying, I have heard the murmurings of the children of Israel. Speak unto them, saying, At even you shall eat flesh. In the morning you shall be filled with bread, and you shall know that I am Hoya, your Almighty. And it came to pass that at the even, the quails came up and covered the camp, and in the morning the dew lay round about the host. And when the dew that lay was gone up, behold, upon the face of the wilderness there lay a small round thing, as small as the hoar frost on the ground. And when the children of Israel saw it, they said to one another, It is manna, or what is it? He just rained down bread from heaven, and they're concerned about what it is. Think about that a minute. You're in the wilderness. You're starving. You're murmuring and complaining. And then you have the audacity to ask him, What the crap are you feeding me? Think about it. That's what manna means. What is it?
With their nose curled up.
That's why it was put into the covenant of promise. Did you hear me? You didn't hear me. That's why manna was put into the covenant of promise. To show you, it doesn't matter what it is. Walk it by faith. That was a test. Be thankful for what you got. If you murmur and complain, you got it because you murmur and complain. But now you're just pissing me off. Watch. For they wist not what it was. And Moses said unto them, This is the bread which I hath given you to eat. This is the thing which I hath commanded. Gather of it every man according to his eating, an omer for every man, according to the number of your persons. Take you every man for them which are in his tents. The children of Israel did so, and gathered some more, some less. And when they did meet it with an omer, he that gathered much had nothing over. He that gathered little had no lack. They gathered every man according to his eating. Yeah. And Moses said, Let no man leave of it till the morning. Notwithstanding they hearkened not unto Moses, but some of them left of it until the morning, and it bred worms and stank. And Moses was angry.
It's not all the way to his tent.
Well, of course. It's all over the ground. And they gathered every morning, every man according to his eating. When the sun waxed hot, it melted. And it came to pass on the 6th day, they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for one man. All the rulers of the congregation came and told Moses. Who came? The rulers. Okay? In Christ's day and age, it would have been the Sadducees and the Pharisees. Now watch this. Where was I at?
23.
Thank you. And he said unto them, This is that which Hoya has said, Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto Hoya. Bake that which you will bake today, and seethe that you will seethe, and that which remaineth over lay up for you to be kept until the morning. They laid it up till the morning, as Moses bade, and it did not stink, neither was there any worm therein. As long as they did what they were commanded to do, everything worked perfect. Is everybody following that?
Yes.
As long as they did what they were told to do, it went well. It went fine for them. It was good for them. Okay, now watch. And Moses said, Eat that today, for today is a Sabbath unto Hoya. Today you shall not find it in the field. 6 days you shall gather it, but on the 7th day, which is the Sabbath, in it there shall be none. Don't even go out looking for it, because you won't find it. He's resting on the 7th day. Everybody following it? Not done. Hold on.
So Hyatt has been working all this time
Well, of course.
and take care of us.
Yep.
I mean,
He works 6 days and is off the 7th too. And it came to pass that there went out some of the people on the seventh day for to gather, and they found none. Now watch how this works. They disobeyed. And Hoya said to Moses, how long refuse you to keep my commandments and my laws? Who was responsible?
Moses.
Is that who he held responsible? He told Moses, he said, how long are you going to keep breaking my commandments? Not how long are the Israelites going to keep breaking my commandments. How long are you going to keep breaking my commandments? Guess who's the one that has to get punished for that?
But does that seem fair?
Yes, it does.
You told them what to do right.
It doesn't matter. He should have laid the law down, got harder and stricter on them. Watch. Where was I at?
29.
28. How long refuse you to keep my commandments and my laws? See, for that Hoya hath given you the Sabbath. Therefore he giveth you on the 6th day the bread of 2 days. Abide you every man in his place. Let no man go out of his place on the 7th day. What did he just say? Let no man. In other words, it was up to Moses. Whether to lock them in their tents or let them out. This is why Paul was so strict in Romans 13, saying, look, you better obey the ministers of Hoya because that's their job. It's for your good. All right, now watch. So the people rested on the 7th day, and the house of Israel called the name thereof manna, and it was like coriander seed white, and the taste of it was like wafers made with honey. And Moses said, this is the thing which Hoya commandeth you, which Hoya commandeth. Fill an omer of it to be kept for your generations. They may see the bread. To do what?
See the bread.
But who's he talking to? Because the children of Israel were not allowed to go in and see the ark.
Moses.
Huh?
Moses.
The high priests.
Aaron.
In other words, it was something that was supposed to be taught to every generation. 6 days, and the 7th day thou shalt rest. 6 days you shall gather food, bread, manna. The 7th day, don't touch it. Everybody following that? In other words, the 6th day, you're supposed to do double the work for the 7th. Why? Because it makes the 7th that more enjoyable. I don't have to work. Of course, I don't have to work until the 9th, but still yet. Watch. In the house of Israel, called it. I already read that. Where was I at? Fill no more of it to be kept for your generation. They may see the bread wherewith I have fed you in the wilderness when I brought you forth from the land of Egypt. And Moses said to Aaron, take a pot, put an omer full of manna therein, and lay it up before Hoya to be kept for your generations. For your generations. For your generations. Did you see that?
Yes.
For Aaron's generations. Aaron's offspring were the only ones allowed to step in the temple. Did you catch that? Okay. Now watch. And as Hoya commanded Moses, so Aaron laid it up before the testimony to be kept. And the children of Israel did eat manna 40 years. 40 years they ate manna. Until they came to a land inhabited. They did eat manna until they came to the borders of the land of Canaan. Now an omer is a 10th part of an ephah. In other words, he just got done telling you what was put in the Ark of the Covenant. But more than that. There's a hidden principle. He just said it's the 10th part. In other words, a 10th of what they gathered was put in the Ark of the Covenant. That's the tithe. Do you understand the principle? The tithe was for the meat. It was so that they would grow up. All right, now watch. Last scripture verse, Philippians 3. You know where it's at, Ruth? After Ephesians, before Colossians. Just saying. Verse 2. Beware of dogs. Now you've got to understand Paul's background. Okay? Has anybody here ever listened to anybody instruct out of the Kabbalah or explain the Kabbalah? In the Kabbalah, a Jew could kill a Gentile, steal from a Gentile, whatever, do anything they wanted to a Gentile, and they get away with it, scot-free. Okay? But the Gentiles were referred to as dogs. They were scum, in other words. Okay? And if you go back and read in the book of Acts, Paul makes the comment that was his religion, was Kabbalah. It was not Mosaic.
Whose religion?
Paul's.
Really?
That was what he was brought up in, was the Kabbalah, which was adopted. It was the religion adopted by the Israelites in Babylonia.
Is that where the Samaritan woman by the well, she said, food doesn't go to the dogs?
Yeah, because he's referring to the Gentiles. But you got to understand where he's coming at with this, because the dog referenced somebody who was brutal, violent. That's what the Gentiles were back then. Okay, now watch this. He's saying, beware of dogs, beware of evil workers, beware of the concision. In other words, be cautious of all these three types of people. Okay? We are the circumcision. We are the circumcision, which worship Paul ye in the Spirit, and rejoice in Christ Joshua, and have no confidence in the flesh. In other words, your flesh means nothing. Though I might also have confidence in the flesh, if any man other thinketh that he hath whereof he might trust in the flesh, I more, circumcised the 8th day of the stock of Israel, of the tribe of Benjamin, and Hebrew of the Hebrews, as touching the law, a Pharisee. Now, you've got to understand this, because there were no Pharisees or Sadducees concerning the law. Under Mosaic law, there was none. Sadducees and Pharisees only came out of Kabbalah religion. Really? Okay? Under Mosaic law, you are not allowed to kill anybody. Thou shalt not kill.
Yeah.
Paul makes the comment time and time again that he was given letters from the Sanhedrin to kill all the people.
And he thought he was doing right.
He thought he was doing it right, and he found out, wait a minute, I'm in the wrong religion.
C-A-B-I-L?
I think it's K-A-B-A-L-A. But anyway, watch this. Concerning zeal, persecuting the church, touching the righteousness which is in the law, blameless. In other words, this is what he was being taught, that everything he was doing was righteous. Okay? But what things were gain to me, those I counted loss for Christ. In other words, I had to throw all that away when I followed Christ. Okay? Yet doubtless, and I count all things but loss, for the excellency of the knowledge of Christ, Joshua my master, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things, and do count them but dung, that I may win Christ. No, and that's the same thing we got to do. We got to take all the religion that we were raised up in and throw it out and count it as just dung. It's crap, for lack of better words. It is. It's not what the paper was written on, let alone the mouths it came from. All right? Thank you. And be found in him, not having my own righteousness, which is of the law, but that which is through the faith of Christ, the righteousness which is of Hallelujah by faith, that I may know him in the power of his resurrection, the fellowship of his sufferings, being made conformable unto his death. If by any means I might attain unto the resurrection of the dead. Not as though I had already attained, either were already perfect, but I fall after, if that I may apprehend that for which also I am apprehended of Christ Joshua. Brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended. In other words, he's saying, look, even though I'm perfect, I don't apprehend that I am. In other words, I don't state or I don't file or claim that I am. Otherwise, that pretty much throws out the idea that I am. Is everybody following? Because if, for an example, let's say Joe is perfect, and she goes around and says, hey, I finally made perfection. You just boasted. You just lost perfection. Is everybody following? That's pride. Well, pride does what? Makes you fall. How many times have we said, oh, we're technons, we us, boom, we're down. Napios again. Why? Because that's what pride does. You know why we will never tell you whether you're a technon or weos? Because it'll knock you back down again. If I tell you you're an Apios, you better start growing up. Anyway. But this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, reaching forth unto those things which are before. I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of high in Christ Joshua. Let us therefore, as many as be perfect. Did you see that? Let us. Let us. He's including himself in that. So as he's saying, look, I've already apprehended. Yes, but he's not wording it that way. Is everybody following? He's saying, look, I'm minded that way, that I'm already perfect. But I'm not going to count myself as perfect, because otherwise I've lost it. All right, now watch. Where was I at? Thank you. Let us therefore, as many as be perfect, be thus minded. If in anything, you be otherwise minded. In other words, if you be any less perfect in your mind, Haya shall reveal this even unto you. Nevertheless, whereto we have already attained, let us walk by the same rule, let us mind the same thing. What did he just say? If you are perfect, Haya will reveal it to you. Did he not? I'm not going to. Bruce's not going to, by far. Joe's not going to. If you are perfect, Haya will reveal it to you. He won't use any man to say, hey, look, Jane, you've already obtained.
We just keep pressing toward the mark.
You just keep working on it. Keep forcing yourself. Keep shoving yourself under the bus. Not literally.
So never think that you completely
Nope.
arrived. Because you haven't.
Any questions? Oh, come on.
I have one now.
Go ahead. No.
It's a question. Do you mean absolutely, literally, on Saturday, in our case, it's the Sabbath, on the Sabbath, we are not to look at the word, we come and get a teaching, but it says don't labor on, we labor.
Okay. Here is what he told, I believe it is in Ezekiel. I may be wrong, it may have been Isaiah. He said not to labor doing according to your own will on my Sabbath. It's not your will that you study, it's his will. Study to show thyself approved unto Haya.
Okay, so we're free to do that.
You're free to study. Now, when it comes to, and again, you got to look at the word. The word work is servile, which means doing for somebody else for labor. In other words, for a reward. That's a day that, I mean, if I had to, for example, go into work on a Sabbath or on a Saturday, I wouldn't charge anybody for it. Just because it's going to be a joy for me to do it. I'm not going to deem it or classify it as a labor, because it wasn't. I mean, that was the whole point of Christ taking his disciples through the cornfield and them eating the corn on the Sabbath. It wasn't that they were working for it.
Mm-hmm.
He was enjoying feeding his disciples.
So I had the emphasis on
Well, not only that, he said if your neighbor needs help on Saturday,
Well,
you go
absolutely.
help him without.
But don't take a pay for it, because it's that then it becomes servile work
Mhm.
when you're
There's
seeking for
things
reward.
I have to do for Giovanna that are part of my job.
Right.
Those I do. The
Mhm.
rest I don't.
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong
I
with.
wouldn't help her up if she's done. I would.
Thank you.
Say no, Saturday can't.
We'll lay there till
Your ox is falling in the ditch. You're stuck.